to do is I've been asked by two families to read statements on their behalf, and then I have a statement from my family. But before I read those, I want to just say I'm aware that that there are differences amongst the families about how we should proceed, and I don't want anyone to think that I represent all of the families, because I don't. And I have been very vocal in speaking out, as some of you know, and I know that some of the families agree with me and some of the families don't. So I don't want to presume for you to conclude that anything I've said in the past or today or tomorrow represents the views of all of the families. I want to be sensitive to that, and I have to be particularly sensitive to that because I know that Christopher's mother, who's sitting in the second row there, we have disagreements ourselves about issues related to how we should do things. So, you know, we talk about it and we try to work that out. So I'll get going here. I have two statements that I'm going to read on behalf of other families than my own. My dearest son, Wei Han David, Mom and Dad are very proud of you. Your sacrifices weren't in vain. Your sacrifice will wake the power and authority of America. It's time to stop the gun violence. Our children deserve a land free from fear. Son, you will be at peace in the hands of God. In your 20 and 10 months of life, we saw God's love and spiritual fruits in you. You are gentle, kind, loving, joyful, peaceful, faithful, and self-controlled. You will live in our hearts forever and ever. Thank you, son. We will learn to love people the rest of our lives as you did. Let us pray for everyone who lost their loved ones, including the young man who killed our son. Goodbye for now, until we see you in heaven. Our love, Mom and Dad. That statement was prepared, that statement was written and only read by me on behalf of the family of Wei's son. I'm sorry, son Wei Han. I'm really sorry, I apologize. Where are you down there? This was written it was written by and read by me on behalf of Wei Han David's family. I'm sorry. The next statement I'm going to read is a message for you from the Hong family. I saw my son in a dream last night, and he asked me to give you this message. My time at USB was the happiest 2 years in my life. I love all my friends who stayed with me through good and bad. I wanted to stay here forever with everyone. I know that there is still great injustice in the world and policies that can be improved. I cannot help with this anymore, but you can. Please love and appreciate everyone around you. The Hong family here today wants you to know we hold love in our hearts forever. Son, we want you to take all our blessings with you to heaven. Finally, we would like to bless all the victims and their families, including the killer. May we together create a peaceful world and let hatred be gone with the wind. And the family wanted me, particularly the mother, wanted me to hold up this little bag here, and I don't know whether you can read it back there, but it says "Gone with the Wind," which is meant to emphasize the last sentence, which reads, "May we together create a peaceful world and let hatred be gone with the wind." And that is the statement of the Hong family. Now, on behalf of my own family, I'm going to make the following statement, and once again, I'm going to tell you that, you know, I'm sensitive to the fact that we have had very limited time to, well, I'm sure you can all appreciate that this is a difficult time for all the families, and there hasn't been a time for, the families have not had a chance to all meet together until we just got in this tent. So I have talked to some other members of the family. I know that some families agree with me and some don't. And you know, I want you to appreciate that I'm speaking for my family. So Christopher Ross Michaels-Martinez. Some of you here today knew and loved him. For that, we, his family, are grateful. For those of you who didn't know Chris, let me borrow words from his cousin Jamie. In one interview that I did, Jamie was at recently, he was asked to describe Chris, and this is what he said. Chris was smart, gentle, and kind until you met him on the basketball court. Then you were faced with a fierce, unrelenting competitor who showed no respect for the fact that Jamie was 20 years older and no respect for the fact that they had a brotherly relationship. And when you were playing basketball with Chris, those things went out the window because he wanted to win. When Chris was 8, he decided to play football. And I mean, it was his decision. It wasn't. I didn't play football in high school. I wasn't excited about the idea. His mom, I know, was not excited about the idea. I think the idea was that we thought he would try it for about 2 weeks and decided it wasn't for him. But we were wrong. And I can remember one day being at I took him to a practice one day, and it was a scrimmage, and for people that don't know football, that's a practice session. And what happens in those things is you got a first string and a second string, which is the better players are in the first string, and the second string are the players that don't play so much. So in this instance, Christopher was in the second string, and all the older, bigger players were in the first string. So I see that the fullback, who was huge, gets the ball, and he starts running full speed at the line and runs over Christopher. Knocks him flying, he winds up on his back, and the guy runs right over him. You know, I was immediately thinking, oh my God, he must be hurt. But he was down the ground probably no more than 2 seconds before he hopped back up. He hopped back up, he stopped 1 foot on the ground, and he walked determinedly back into the line. That's the kind of kid Chris was. Now, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit for a minute, and then I'm going to get back to that football game. I know that people have been coming up to all of us, and you know, people come up to us, and you know, they express their sadness, sorrow for what happened, offer their condolences. And sometimes they ask what they can do. And my idea, which I arrived at earlier today, and I know that I've shared this idea with some of the other families, and I know that some of the families support me and agree with this. And I know that maybe some don't. So I don't want you to think that what I'm going to suggest to you right now represents everybody's views. So my original idea was, you know, I wanted to give you all something to do to support us in a very concrete way, so we could, you know, so you could leave here with some idea that you could do something to help us. And so my original thought was that I should ask you on behalf of Christopher and the other families that agree with this approach to go out and buy a pack of postcards, write the 3 words, "not one more," on it. And I don't know if any of you saw the video of me at the sheriff's substation on the evening of the thing. Closing, if you ever see that video, my closing statement on that was "not one more." And I mean by that it's intolerable, this situation. We all know it. It's not news to any of us. We know what's happening here, and it's unbelievable that we're at this point. Too many people have died, and there shouldn't be. It should be not one more. So my idea was that I would tell you all that you should go out and buy postcards and write words "not one more" on them, and then find the names and addresses of every politician you could possibly think of and send them that message. And then, you know, actually most of you young people out there have already spotted the problem with that idea. But it had to be pointed out to me by someone else that you young people don't know what a postcard is. So that wasn't going to work. Unless you have an older person that you can ask what a postcard is. So I still like that idea, and I still offer it to you as a possibility. But I was told, and it had to be, I was sitting over this tent here when I had discovered this problem, and I said, please find me someone who can explain what a hashtag is to me. And so I think it was Gregory, he's one of the ushers came over, and they found him, and he was able to explain to me in language that I could understand what a hashtag was. And it apparently is an extremely effective tool of communication that's been used to support, well, you kids know. I mean, I'm still not clear on something, but it was explained to me that that was a far more effective means of communicating how you feel about this to our leaders in this country. Well, you know what? We use the word leader, and bear in mind, these are our, I can't speak on behalf of the rest of the families, but on behalf of my family, I would put the word leaders in quotations, because to us, there haven't been any leaders. People have tried. Just yesterday, I got a phone call from a congressperson to express their condolences. And I told that person I wasn't interested in a phone call from them to express their condolences and sadness about what happened to Chris. That was unacceptable. Until that person went back to Congress and actually did something. They have done nothing, and that's why Chris died. And the other kids, in my opinion, that's in our opinion, my family's opinion, that's why Chris and these other kids died. This situation has gone on far too long. We all know it. I mean, you know, how many more people are going to have to die in this situation before the problem gets solved? Now, you know, it's almost become a normal thing for us to accept this. It's not normal. Any of us who grew up in the 50s, 60s, 40s know that life doesn't have to be like this. So why should it be like this for you people who are young now? It's just intolerable. And so, I'm going to ask you all to do something. And once again, I don't represent the views of all the families. And so I'm going to ask you to do something. And what I would say is, you know, if you agree with me, then do it. If you don't agree with me, then don't do it. And we'll make it clear to everyone who is here or might be seeing it, that, you know, we have our differences, and I understand that, you know, we all have different values, we all come from different backgrounds, we all have different personalities, and I'm not presuming in any way to speak on behalf of everyone. But what I'm going to ask you to do in about 2 seconds, when I make a hand gesture, I'm going to ask you to shout. I'm going to ask you to shout the words, "Not one more." And then after I do it, I'm going to raise my arm up in the air, and then I'm going to ask, on that cue, I want you to shout, not one more. If you agree with me and what I'm suggesting, then you'll join me. If you don't, then don't. And if it's not loud enough, I'm going to raise my hand back up in the air again, and I'm going to ask you to shout louder. And if I don't feel that's loud enough, because, you know, when we do this, I want it to be so loud they can hear it in Washington, D.C., all right? So I may not be satisfied with your first effort, and I might not be satisfied with your second effort. So my hand can go up and down a few times. And I just, you know, if you're in agreement with me, then you'll shout "not one more" when the arm goes up. And when I feel that you've been loud enough, I'll stop. Do we have a plan? Say yes. Do we have a plan? All right, shall we begin? Yeah. All right. The hand's going to go up in a minute. Be ready to shout. You know, you might want to shout your loudest now, and then I won't do it again. All right? Not one more. Not good enough. That was much better, but I think we need more. I don't think they heard us yet, all right? One more time, and then I'll do, okay, are you with me on that? You'll try once more? See if you can really do your best this time, all right? Those people are not listening. It has to be really loud. Are you okay? Are you ready? Yeah. Some are ready and some aren't. Not convinced. If you don't agree, don't. But if you agree that the people in Washington should hear that not one more person should have to die because of this ridiculous situation, then when I raise my hand, I want you to shout so loud that they're going to hear you. Are you with me? Yeah. Not good enough. One more time. Are you with me? Yeah. All right. Now, I told you that I was going to get back to Christopher's football, and I think the lesson we can learn from the particular play that Christopher was involved in that day is that I want you to follow Christopher's example on that day, and like Christopher on that day, we've been knocked down. And like Christopher on that day, I want you to get back up and walk determinedly forward. And thank you for your time.